Previously from the Hood Blogger.
NY shot him in the leg during the struggle over the murder weapon. Following the incident on Germantown Avenue near Pike Street, the city of Philly got a lot of history. History as far back as when Harriet Tubman used to bring the runaway slaves to Philly to get them away from the slave trade. But this the Hood Blogger, and you already know how I carry it. So today, we're going to talk about the war between Craig Haynes and JBM. One thing for sure, two things for certain, the city of Philly never been a safe place. But once upon a time, we had the JBM running the streets. And the JBM, you already know what it was. It was literally get down to lay down. But as much as we saw in the movies and the documentaries, it was a lot of people that wasn't trying to get down. And they was willing to do whatever it took by any means necessary not to get down. And one of those people happened to be Craig Haynes. Now, Craig Haynes being from the Uptown part of Philly, for those of y'all that don't know, if y'all not from Philly, even to this day, as far as no disrespect to no other parts of the city, we know the city get busy, but Uptown was always a part of the city where north, south, west, you know, all the other parts of the city always looked at Uptown guys as pretty boys and soft, because when you start going around like West Oak Lane, Mount Airy, you know, them houses, they start, you know, they look real nice. You know, they got yards and all of that, you know, garages and everything. But a lot of people didn't know that, you know, just because you see them houses that look nice, it don't mean that the people inside of them don't get busy. You know, it looks as though when you go through West Oak Lane and Mount Airy, people from other parts of the city automatically assume that, you know, these people grew up with silver spoons, when in fact, a lot of people that moved to West Oak Lane and Mount Airy, the Uptown area, was actually families that was from other parts of the city. But, you know, during the time when we had like a lot of factories and stuff in Philly, that would be the goal for people to move out of North Philly, you know, West Philly and other parts of the city. And they would go, you know, want to rest their head in a nicer neighborhood. Once upon a time, all like, even from like Germantown and on up to, you know, to Uptown, it was a lot of like white people that lived in them areas. But eventually black families, when they was still established, you know, they would get their income up and move up there. So that's just the history of Uptown. So obviously we already know that Craig Haynes eventually got approached by the JBM. During the 80s, Philly was no different than New York and other parts around the world. Although it's a lot of movies and stuff from New York and stuff like that, if you do your research as far as Philly, Detroit, all of them other areas, and mainly Philly, because it was like really kind of basically the same lifestyle as New York, you know, with people having clothes with matching cars and jewelry. If you ever heard of anybody that, you know, was really getting money from New York, they ended up, you know, connecting it with people from like Philly and, you know, Jersey. So it was always deeper than, you know, just like New York having that scene. You know, they was also driving around and, you know, doing the Gucci and all that designer and stuff as well. So just the scene of the 80s, it's a lot of people, even people that we drive past deli that might be standing out front of a deli, you know, drinking a Still Reserve that look all washed up. You'd be surprised how many of them guys was really getting money back in the day. It's just that, you know, when they switched over to that hard, you know what I mean? When people start cooking up, you know, people was basically, it was a lot of hustlers that was dipping and dabbing. You dig what I'm saying? They was lacing their L's. They used to call them John's Love Boats. And they used to lace their L's, you know, roll up the green and sprinkle the hard on top of it. And then eventually, unfortunately, some people ended up straight up doing the hard, nothing but hard. And then between jail and coming home, that'll wash somebody up quick. Now today, I'm not going to get into the full story of Craig Haynes, because me personally, I like to do the proper due diligence. And I always put it out there, anybody from that JBM era that was really there, you know, anybody that's connected to Craig Haynes or any of our legends from the city of Philly, you know, I would love to connect with you. You can find me on the gram at SVTwiz. You can also email me at svtwiz@gmail. But I want to basically get into what's documented. I'm going to pull up the actual newspaper ads from the 80s that was documented when these things was going on between Craig Haynes and JBM. Other than that, you already know how I carry it. We getting straight into it. A reputed former junior black mafia hitman is under police guard at Gopher Medical Center after being shot on the South Philly street corner. Philadelphia police said John Craig Haynes, 23, of 17th Street near Chew Avenue in East Germantown, was shot just after midnight Sunday in the left chest and left hand at the intersection of 20th and Pierce Streets. Haynes, who was named in a county grand jury presentment unsealed yesterday for a February 20th shooting incident, was taken to St. Agnes Medical Center. He later was transferred to Gopher Medical Center, where he was in a fair condition and under police guard in the hospital wing. Haynes is a former JBM hitman who ran his own JBM sanctioned drug operation in South Philadelphia, but defected to a faction opposition in the drug gang's current leadership. According to the law enforcement sources, the faction operates in the 20th and Carpenter Streets neighborhood near where Haynes was shot. The sources said Haynes is being investigated in connection with at least 5 JBM-related slayings, including the murder of Donald Branch at Tobin's Inn in Mount Airy on August 10th. Branch was mistakenly killed by gunmen who bungled an attempt to kill JBM street boss Aaron Jones, the sources said. It was not known whether the Sunday incident was related to an ongoing struggle between the power of JBM or to the February 20th shooting. In that incident, Haynes and 2 other people were accused of shooting Robert Brooks of Manton Street near 25th Street in South Philly in the dispute at Brooks Barbershop at the 26th and Manton Streets. Brooks, who was a longtime friend of Haynes, was shot in the face, body, and hand after he refused to work for the JBM, the sources said. So as y'all can see, Brooks, who was a friend of Haynes and all of that, he wasn't trying to really get down and all that with the JBM. So they basically saying that Haynes was connected to the JBM once upon a time, but obviously, he didn't want to deal with him no more. This is what this paperwork is saying. He was hospitalized for several weeks and has a facial disfigurement and nerve damage as a result of the attack. According to the grand jury presentment, the grand jury recommended that Haynes be charged with aggravated and simple assault, reckless endangerment, conspiracy, and possession of an instrument of crime. Donald Branch went to Tobin's Inn in West Oak Lane almost 2 years ago to celebrate a victory by his baseball teams. Moments after, he sat down for a late dinner. The 44-year-old Montgomery County father of 2 was mistaken as a player in a deadly game between 2 rival drug gangs and was shot to death. 2 others were wounded in the botched August 1989 assassination attempt. Yesterday, state and federal authorities announced the indictment of 10 members in the South Philadelphia drug gang and charged them with Branch's murder. I'm very happy that justice is being done and that they are off the streets, Branch's widow said. Diane said that yesterday. It won't bring Donald back, but it might save some other innocent victims. Besides Branch's murder, the men, along with 10 others, are charged with being members of a cocaine gang and several drug-related crimes, including the brutal beating of one of their own members who turned up short of cash earned in cocaine sales one day. The members were alleged to have become a deadly drug association when they decided to go to war over drug turf against even the more dangerous junior black mafia in 1988. But they were best known for misidentifying and killing innocent bystanders and for daylight gun battles, including the one outside of City Hall in March 1989. According to the indictment announced yesterday, John Craig Haynes, the gang's alleged leader, wasn't satisfied with his share of illegal drug profits and sought to stop anyone who got in his way, said acting district attorney William G. Chadwick Jr. He led his members of drug trafficking gang on repeated attempts to murder members of the opposition. Tragically, some of those who got in his way were no more than innocent bystanders, as Donald Branch Chadwick said. The indictments were announced by Chadwick, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Willie L. Williams, and the U.S. Attorney Michael Belson, are a result of a county grand jury investigation. The jury's presentment and subsequent charges detail how the gang often set out searching for any JBM member they could find to kill. 3 times the gang found innocent men who were sitting where the JBM members were sought to be near the JBM Association. Haynes, 25 of 17th Street near Chew Avenue, is already serving a life sentence for the murder of one of the innocent victims, James Suswell, who was 20 years old. Suswell was sitting in his car brought from JBM member when Haynes gang searching for the JBM target spotted him. Suswell was killed and 2 friends were wounded when South Philadelphia gang riddled the car with bullets. In addition to Branch's murder, Haynes is charged with June 1989 murder of Eric Hurst. Hurst was sitting in a car at 4th Street and Washington Avenue watching a basketball game with South Philadelphia boxer and reputed JBM member Anthony Two Guns. Fletcher Haynes spotted them ordered the men shot. Hurst had no known affiliation with either gang. Police have said the convicted triggerman in the murder, Eric Rogers, also named in the indictments as being part of Haynes' gang. The indictment alleges that Haynes and 9 others set out to murder JBM boss Aaron Jones, who had been in Tobin's Inn earlier on that night. Branch of UNCUT, Montgomery County, was killed. Victims and carried out shootings in broad daylight, sometimes on a busy city street. According to Carson, the intended victims of the JBM had nicknames like Paddle and Pooch and Paper, while some of Carson's colleagues went by Squeezy, Moochie, and Gump. He testified, if they wasn't going to buy drugs from JBM, they was going to be plucked, said Carson, who has pleaded guilty to taking a part in the drug conspiracy and is awaiting 2 sentences. When you say plucked, what do you mean? Asked Burroughs. Killed, replied Carson. So this is Carson basically giving a statement and testifying, against the whole situation. And now he'll get into, basically Craig Haynes a little bit, speaking on the situation between them. So he goes to say, a drug rival, John Craig Haynes, was among those who refused to do business with the JBM, according to Carson. So like I spoke earlier, when they was, conducting the investigation, they actually thought that Craig Haynes was all, like a part of the JBM at times. You dig what I'm saying? But now they're really finding out that Craig Haynes was actually the one that didn't want to do business with the JBM. He didn't get down, said Carson. As a result of that, a war broke out over that. A war between us and Craig Haynes' crew. An effort to kill Haynes, who is now serving life in prison for the murder. Carson described how the JBM mobilized when he was spotted near City Hall. Members of the JBM was down there and just started to have a shootout. Craig called his people. Somebody got shot, but it wasn't the intended victim, said Carson. It was right outside of City Hall. In another case, Carson said the JBM shot a victim numerous times, and members were astounded to learn that the person did not die. He had 9 lives, said Carson. We messed up. In spite of all the violence, Carson told the jury that he himself never personally committed a murder. I guess it was luck, he said. So that's just a briefer right there of what was really going on, the documented, murders and everything that happened during this situation. So definitely Craig Haynes was not trying to get down, and they had basically placed him as, the high ranking member of the movement that he had going on. But this SB Twiz, the hood blogger, y'all know how I carry it. If y'all want me to dig deeper and get more details about the Craig Haynes situation, just DM me SB Twiz. Other than that, if it's any, stories that y'all want out there, y'all can also DM me. Especially if y'all, are family members or was around from that era. But y'all know how I carry it. SB Twiz, the hood blogger.